peril that is not covered under your homeowner's insurance is flood. And on a national level, flood is the number one occurrence, the number one thing that happens to people's homes. And yet it's not covered on your homeowner's policy. So you need to realize that, and you can't get it on your homeowner's policy. So you have to buy a flood policy. Now, when I say you have to, it's not mandatory unless you have a mortgage. And if you have a mortgage and you are in a flood zone that requires you to have flood coverage, and the mortgage company determines that, then they'll tell you you have to get it. So when you're dealing with this, let me help you understand how flood insurance works. First of all, it's a program developed by the federal government. And there are flood maps all over the country, but since we're worried about Florida and our area, that everywhere you live, there is a determined flood zone. Who determines that? The federal government. Insurance companies have access to those maps. The federal government determines the rates, the amount of money that you charge for living in those designated areas. The federal government actually pays for a claim if you have a flood at your home, but the insurance companies are the ones that administer the whole thing. So you will see most of the time you can get a flood policy directly through the federal government. I don't suggest that. It's better to deal with an insurance company, but the insurance company taps into the federal government for the whole program. The insurance companies are the administrators of this. They do the billing, and they often are the ones that send the adjusters out to settle the claim, but the money comes from the federal government. So when you buy flood insurance, once again, you have choices. And you need to know that you can cover your structure of your house. You could do that only. And that's what the mortgage company, of course, is concerned about, just the structure. But you also can pick coverage for your contents, your personal property, belongings. You may have some type of detached structure on your property. If you want flood coverage on it, you have to pick another policy for that detached structure. You have to be aware of these things. Choices. The cost of flood insurance, it varies. And it varies based on some common sense here. The closer you are to being threatened to be flooded, the more expensive it is. If you're on a lake, if you're right next to the ocean, if you're right by a creek, those kinds of things, common sense, where a flood is more likely to happen, the more expensive your flood insurance will be. Some common sense. Anybody can have flood insurance. You need to know that. You may not be mandated by a mortgage company to have flood insurance, or you may not have a mortgage, and so there's no pressure for you to have flood insurance. But you can get it if you want it. So if it concerns you, it's something that should be talked about thoroughly, and understand how the coverage actually works, as well as the cost of that. And common sense would tell you again, the closer you are to water, the more expensive it's going to be.